Welcome back, everyone. It's Zach from Rare Candy here, and I am going over a video today, I guess, of all the cards that we lost in the rotation. So for those of you who may not know, Pokemon.com did an announcement, and the week before Worlds, or the day before Worlds, I'm not entirely too sure, we are experiencing a rotation. So if you don't know what a rotation is, it means that they are taking some powerful cards out of the format and they are bringing them into the expanded format. So these cards were always available in the expanded format, but they will no longer be legal for standard organized play. These sets were from Sun and Moon and all the way up until Crimson Invasion / Shining Legends. So while this video might not directly help you in finding out the new deck or anything that's going to come out with the Unified Mind set list, which we're not entirely sure includes or not, I just wanted to basically show you the cards that we lost in the fire. Kind of give them one last hurrah, their last chance in the spotlight, at least until we start seeing some more expanded tournaments. So the way to look at this video is these cards are no longer viable for standard play. You can't play them at all. And just take them out of your collection. With these cards being out of your collection, obviously there's 100 or so cards in this list. Just take some cards and replace them with those cards. So we're trying to find like-minded cards that can see success. So for example, if we took away Zoroark GX, which Zorich Gx is gone, rest in peace, maybe Salazzle from Unbroken Bonds would be a suitable substitution for your deck. Now, it's not as easy as that, and in a future video, or in the future, I will be addressing some of the cards that do gain strength in this new format, cards that do take the place of these powerful cards. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for those. So let's jump into it. I will go over every single card in this list. There's 117 of them, and let's go. So starting off first, we got Darkrai Gx. So during the later half of the format, Darkrai Gx did not see as much success as it did in the beginning, but Darkrai Gx with Garbodor and Sylveon Gx was a very powerful deck to start off with. Righteous Edge is a strong attack because you can discard a special energy card from your opponent's active Pokemon. Berserk can do upwards of 150 damage, and Big Will is a really good consistency crutch. If we had this in our format, we'd probably be playing it now. But it's really, Berserk cannot keep up with Tag Team GX Pokemon anymore. There's not a lot of special energy cards in play, but Darkrai GX was definitely a titan of the format of the yesteryears. Eevee. So this card might surprise you that it's gone because it seems like such a strong basic ability that we've had forever, and it really was. Energy Evolution, just searching your deck for the Pokemon that evolves from Eevee. And as you can see, there are quite a few good cards if they want to pop up that evolve from Eevee. So if you look at all these good Pokemon, they were simply a basic energy away from kind of evolving. Now we have Eevees from Lost Thunder, we have Eevees from other set, but we generally think that this Eevee is probably the better Eevee. There's also Eevee GX, which is a pretty cool card. You could just plop something down from your hand, but it's not necessarily the best Eevee available. Pretty much stock up on these guys. We have Sylveon GX, so a card that evolved from Eevee actually. This card was played as its own deck or as a support for Gardevoir GX decks to search cards out, but in its own deck, it was a very popular control deck where you would gather kind of pesky cards such as Crushing Hammer, cards like Mars, and just really try to whittle down your opponent's resources. Really didn't see too much play in the later half of the season, but it did see some successes early this year and actually won at regionals in Europe as well. Miltank. So this is actually a really popular card right now in the Reshiram Charizard GX deck. Moo Malt allows you, when Miltank's in the active Pokemon, you can heal 90 damage from one of your Pokemon as you attach an energy card from it. It's kind of a cool way to heal your Pokemon while attaching an energy, but this card is being rotated. Oranguru, simple draw card, instruct, draw some cards. Psychic wasn't a bad attack. Oranguru, it's been a staple in a lot of decks for a while. Maybe not every single deck, but it does pop up now and again. Oranguru will surely be missed, especially in this new format. We don't have a lot of options for draw. We lost Zoroark, we lost Oranguru, we lost supporters, trainers. So Oranguru would actually be one of the most played cards right now. But, like I said, it is gone. Rest in peace, Guru. So, while this card didn't see a lot of play, I did include some cards in this list that would see play if all the other cards were still rotated. So let's say if this Rayquaza came out in Lost Thunder, people would be playing it right now to power up their Pokemon and power up their bench Pokemon very quickly. It follows under my Energy Accelerators list, which I think is important for every single format to try to categorize cards. Turbo Storm, it's gone. We don't have this anymore. There might be some suitable Pokemon in the future, but when we've lost cards like Aqua Patch, Rayquaza, I'm sure there's plenty of others that will go through this list. Attaching extra energies is always a huge plus. So, goodbye Rayquaza. Regigigas. So, you might be looking at this card, and if you haven't been playing Pokemon for a while, Seal of Antiquity seems like an awful ability. It means that your Pokemon can't attack. Giant Stomp, also an awful attack. Beyond Regigigas being pretty cool, you might wonder why this card's on this list. Well, it was played in stall decks based off of its 180 HP, so you would use this Regigigas to take damage. Not a lot of Pokemon can hit 180 damage easily, and you just play kind of control cards like Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, Mount Lanakala, things that would prevent your opponent from getting set up or kind of stop their setup in the process. This card was integral to part of those decks, even all the way up until the North American International Championships. So we are saying goodbye to this card and a few other cards that were in that deck as well. One thing to note, there's not a lot of control cards in our new format that survive the rotation, so maybe we're just going to be going back to attacking with Pokemon. So maybe you took a break from the game because you took a bad beat against a Vileplume deck, a Regigigas deck. Feel free to jump back into the game because there's a lot of these big attackers, kind of setup decks. So we got Blacephalons in the new format. We have Malamar in the new format, Pikarom, just kind of these straight attacks, you know what's going on decks. So now would be a great time to jump back if you did not like the control. Shining Lugia. So this card saw a lot of play earlier on in the season and even upwards in Reshiram Charizard decks. Argent Wing is a very strong attack because most Pokemon have abilities. Most Pokemon with abilities are quite good. It's a single prize card Pokemon with 130 HP. So that's all good right there. It sucks that we're losing such a consistent and kind of, I don't know, you can play this card in a bunch of different decks. It just sucks to lose, to be honest. So it was a promo card. It was a little bit pricey to get. Sometimes this card went up to $20. So it's not a card that you really need anymore. So if you did not buy it, do not buy it anymore, unless you're a fan of Lugia. Taurus Gx. Again, similar to Drampa GX, this card was a beast in the earlier format, but it kind of faded away as the format progressed. If this card was in our new format, maybe it would be doing pretty good because Mad Bull GX can do a lot of damage to GX Pokemon, Tag Team Pokemon. But beyond that, we also lost double colorless in this new Ultra Prism to Unbroken Bonds format that will soon add Unified Minds. So it's really hard to attach two colorless energies to this Pokemon. Herdier, whatever, the guy that evolves from Lillipup, the guy or girl, I don't know what this dog is, but it's cool. I like its treasure hunt ability. I actually almost played this in my Blacephalon GX deck multiple times throughout the season because you can get an item card from your discard pile back into your hand. Abilities like this, they are either amazing or they don't see play. Unfortunately for Herdier or this Doggo, Woof Woof, this Pokemon did not see much play. However, it might have seen a lot more play in our new format. So that's why it made this list. Porygon Z or Porygon Z, depending on where you are in the world. For me, it would be Porygon Z because Canada is different. Initialize. When you play this Pokemon from your hand, you can de-evolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution card into your opponent's hand. As our format progressed, we got a lot of powerful 200 plus HP Tag Team GX Pokemon that don't need to evolve. So this card did not see the play that it probably deserved, but its ability is so interesting that I've always kept a handful of these on me at any given time, just in case stage 1, stage 2 decks became viable. This card might have been good in a spread deck, or it might have been good just to take down some important stage 1, stage 2 Pokemon in play. But like I said for everything, this card is now gone. You do not have to worry about adding this to your deck because it no longer exists in our standard format. Darkrai Gx. I actually played this card at the 2017 Daytona Beach Expanded Regional Championships. I played it with Hypnotoxic Lasers and Verbank, so I can hit with a quick Dark Cleave. Now, that's the expanded format, and this card is still available in that format, but there are fighting type decks that do keep it at bay. In our standard format, this would be a quick way to accelerate Dark Energies into play because you can get it back with Restoration. And this card might have actually been pretty good with Greninja Zoroark GX. Greninja Zoroark GX actually seems like it can hold its own in this new format, maybe with Naganadel or Sharpedo, especially with a lot of the very quick and powerful Pokemon finding their way in the rotated bin. So this card would have been pretty cool, but we no longer have access to it. Hoopa. Hoopa has done fantastic at multiple events, has really kind of shattered the dreams of GX and EX Pokemon. You can see how it has EX written in the card. This card is an oldie from 2017. This card was really just a safeguard Pokemon against GX and EX Pokemon. If you only ran GX and EX Pokemon, Hoopa would just be chilling there and your opponent would not be able to attack it. So let it be known that if you are playing straight GX and EX Pokemon, you no longer have to worry about Hoopa sitting in front of you unless you are playing in the expanded format. Sableye. So this card saw some play throughout the season, especially in Zoroark control decks. Limitation, stopping your opponent from playing supporter cards from their hand, can be really pesky. Sableye might not live up to the hype nowadays because there's actually not a lot of supporter cards in our new formats. We've lost quite a few of them. We've lost Kiawe, the one that attaches the 4 energies to one of your Pokemon. Now you don't need to worry about anything stopping you from playing your supporters as of right now. So Sableye is gone, and I'm actually glad because cards like this can be really frustrating if your opponent gets it out on their first turn. Haunch Crow. So kind of going on with some of the theme, this card would fit into the spread kind of category of cards that we're losing. We really would be using this card for Raven's Claw. So 10 damage plus 10 damage for each damage counter on all of your opponent's Pokemon. So you got to think of decks with like Tapu Cocoa, or maybe even like a Weezing deck if we want to be a little bit more current. Haunch Crow really kind of would rain on our parade if we were able to get this out, especially if we could get a good solid spread deck rolling. Spread hasn't seen that much success this season, but Haunch Crow GX is definitely one of those pesky cards, one of those pesky inclusions in decks that you never want to see your opponent play down. And Weavile. So I played this card at this season. I played it this season. Whoa. At the Oaks Regional Championships in Pennsylvania. And I also played this at the Memphis Regionals in Tennessee. I played in my Buzz Garb Shrine of Punishment deck to kind of attack Pokemon because they'd have a lot of abilities in play. So Evil Admonition was definitely a strong attack. But you want to know what? We also lost a lot of Zoroark. We also lost a lot of other things. So you could see things like Eevee with Energy Evolution. They're just gone out of our format. This would be a really welcome card in our format right now, especially if abilities become big. But it is going to rotate. Zoroark GX. This is arguably the most important card we've seen in the past season. I'd say arguably the most important card we've seen in the past 2 seasons. And I'd even throw it out on a whim that this is one of the most important cards of all time in the Pokemon TCG. Zoroark GX has absolutely dominated our format since it was released in Shining Legends, and it's because it has a great combination of, it's a stage 1, lots of HP, solid typing, ability, drawing cards, discarding cards, and Riotous Beating is just one of the most consistent attacks in the game. It's not like it has 50 HP, it's not like it is a stage 2, it's not like it has a retreat cost of 5, it's not like Riotous Beating costs 6 energies. This card has it all, and it even just won the 2019, literally a week ago, it won the North American International Championships for the 2nd year in a row, and it won Worlds, and it's won countless regionals. As much as it's painful to see this card go, I'm excited for new cards to take its place. It's going to keep the format fun and exciting. If you like Zorich GX, I'm sorry that your card's going to be lost. You could play it in the expanded format. If you did not like Zorich GX and maybe you took a break from the game because this card was a little overpowered, now's the time to come back because this card is no longer with us. Rest in peace, Zoroark. Some will miss you. I definitely will not. Get out of here, bud. Noivern GX. Kind of a weird card here. Distort allows you to kind of block your opponent from playing item cards from their hands. And that's really the basis where this card came from. It saw a light amount of play in the expanded format. However, in this format, with the way that it's working, maybe we would be playing Distort. Maybe we'd be playing Noivern and Noivern GX, blocking our opponent from playing item cards. Any kind of control aspect card can generally be good, and it's only as good as the environment that it's in. So let's say if Noivern GX was like from like Lost Thunder, Ultra Prism, it might see play today, actually like past the rotation, but this card, we no longer need to worry about it. So one less card that stops us from not playing cards is welcome in my book. Goodbye, Noivern. Comfy, kind of a weird card. So any Pokemon, or each of your Pokemon, sorry, with Fairy Energy attached to it can't be affected by special conditions, and you therefore remove the special conditions affecting those Pokemon. This card could have been pretty good to prevent some special conditions if it ever got big. Maybe if special conditions are big in our new format, this card would have been good, but it is notable that we are losing it. So if you're ever like scratching your head and being like, yo, what's that card that stops special conditions? There's these super annoying Blacephalon GXs that keep on using Bursting Burn. Regretfully and unfortunately, you'll know that Comfy is sitting in your expanded kind of box or the back of your binder because it is no longer legal for play. Diancie. So this saw some play in Gardevoir GX decks to kind of accelerate it. I think it saw a lot of play in Southern America. We didn't really see too much of it being played in North America, but Sparkling Wish would be a really cool kind of attack to evolve some Pokemon quickly. A lot of us who played back in the day played with a lot of stage 1, stage 2 decks. Diancie would fit in great there. Our format is now dominated by big, fat, basic attacking Pokemon. So Sparkling Wish, it's debatable if it would see play nowadays, but just in case you're trying to build an evolution deck, there's a lot of great options, like Meganium is out there still. Diancie is no longer an option for those decks. So Ribombee. One thing that I found that's really weird about this format is it's difficult to search for energies. One of the biggest staples that we've seen in the format, energy search your deck for a single basic energy card, was not legal in our past format. So cards like Ribombee really did work by just gathering energies out. I know some of our stronger local players, Kieran Farah, they played this at League Cups at the beginning of the season to power up their Duskmane Necrozma GX decks. But now we don't have a lot of ways to search out energies. We did just recently get Energy Spinner, which can search out some energies, so maybe we'll see a solid replacement in that, because this is a stage 1 Pokemon. But in case you're looking for an ability-based search for energies, don't look at this card. This card is expanded now. One of the absolute beasts in our format. This card has won regional championships. It absolutely dominated at the European International Championships. I think earlier last season, this card has seen success up until even in this current Unbroken Bonds format. Secret Spring, fantastic ability. Infinite Force, fantastic attack. Twilight GX, fantastic attack. This card had it all, and it basically all cost nothing. It's kind of a shame to lose this card because it's seen so much success and it was able to grow throughout the past couple of years. But you want to know what? I'm really excited to see what cards take its place as kind of those format front runner cards. Everything has a time to retire in life. So you got to think of it. It was just Gardevoir GX's time. If you're looking to live up the past old times, maybe play this in the expanded format. Buzzwole GX. This card brought me basically my top 16 status in North America last year. Absolutely had an amazing season with it. Buzzwole Lycanroc dominated for seasons. This card was played earlier this season, even with that rotation in mind. When we lost Max Elixir, it still pops up every now and again because Jet Punch is very efficient attack. Absorption GX, you can knock out like a Pikarom out of nowhere. I even played against a very similar deck that included this card in the top 8 of Collinsville Regional Championships this year, where Peter Kika just was like, you wanna know what? I'm gonna hate on Pikarom. And he ended up facing a Blacephalon. But this card has been relevant since its inception in the game. So it's kind of sad to see it go, but at the same time, it's something that we just gotta live with. And like I said, there's always out with the old, in with the new. Pokemon's like a refreshing wave. And that's what keeps the game super exciting, and it makes it more inviting to new players. You got to think, Buzzwole GX, you're just not going to open a box or maybe even get the promo box for this card. You'd have to buy singles for it. At least these new players who are opening up new product, they can always jump into the game. Diancie Prism Star, and this card's actually not gone. This is an oversight on my behalf, so let's minus off the list. That's one less card we have to go through. It actually came out in Forbidden Light, so we don't have to worry about losing that card. Lunatone. So similar to some of the other healing cards, this card blocks our opponents from healing their Pokemon. It didn't really see a lot of play because there wasn't a lot of heal in this format, but maybe we would see more heal in this format if other cards were already previously rotated. Marsh Shadow Gx. We've seen this card dominate at regional championships as kind of as late as Collinsville, because people were like, oh, how do we copy other attacks? What's popular? Picarom's popular. Oh, cool, this card's fighting type. This card was really versatile, and we saw it in a bunch of different decks. But most notably, we saw it recently in the Pikachu Zekrom list to counter the mirror matchup. It had a low amount of HP, and this card seemed fairly balanced. So it's sad to see it go, but at the same time, I'm excited to see if there's any new cards that are coming out that can copy other attacks. Passimian. So we saw Jimmy Pendarvis play this deck earlier at Memphis Regional Championships. Jimmy has won 4 regionals this year. So obviously his kind of take on it was Passimian was very good at that time. Team play a very busted attack, single prize card Pokemon. It's sad to see cards like this go because they're so interesting and they're so fun to watch them play or play them yourself. But we will have new single prize card Pokemon coming out in this format, and it's just something we got to look out for. Sudowoodo. I know that somewhere out there, Alex Wilson, the Rayquaza guy, is very happy to see that Roadblock is no longer in our standard format. So your opponent can't have more than 4 bench Pokemon. That's as simple as this card is. This card saw a lot of play to block Zoroark GX from doing extra damage with Riotous Beating. As Zoroark GX became it took on a different approach. It took more of a control-based approach and using trade. We saw less play from this card, but this card was a very integral part of our format for years. So it's sad to see a card like this go, but I'm happy to know that I will have all of my bench Pokemon in play, and they will be very much safe for that time being. Crabominable. So this is a little bit more of a meme card, but Gutsy Hammer was definitely good against some fighting weak Pokemon. With a Choice Band intact, you could knock out a Zoroark GX with this card. With Zoroark GX being gone, Gutsy Hammer does not seem that great anymore. But this card did see some play. I even saw Richard Halsall, one of our local players. He played this at one of our Q3 League Cups just to kind of hate on Zoroark GX, and it ended up working. He made top cut there, so good job to him. Lycanroc GX, really cool card. We saw this card being played in Zoroark decks, Buzzwole decks, even other crazy decks that you wouldn't expect it in. Bringing up something with Bloodthirsty Eyes is an amazing ability, and in a format where we're also losing Guzma, you might want to be looking back and be like, oh, how can I bring up my opponent's Pokemon? Wait, no, Lycanroc GX is no longer legal. So as of right now, in our new post-rotation metagame, we have Counter Catcher to bring up our opponent's Pokemon, or we have Ninetales from, I believe, the team-up set. So we really lost a lot of ways. It's sad to see a card like this go, but I'm happy to know that the Pokemon on my bench are now safe on my bench. I could tuck them in at night, sing them some bedtime stories. Machoke. So I saw this card being played at Worlds 2017 in order for people to block some damage counters being put on our Pokemon. We don't really have a great way to block things with Machoke anymore. There's no similar abilities that I know of off the top of my head. Daunting Pose was really one of the more unique abilities in this format. So if Spread got out of hand, this would be a cool card to add. So if Spread becomes big again, we will be missing our dear friend Machoke. Rhyperior, kind of a weird card that did not see a lot of play, but if you are a fan of Durant or any cards that mill cards from your opponent's deck, discard cards from your opponent's deck, you will be sad to know that Toppling Wind is no longer available in format. In the newest set, Unbroken Bonds, they just printed off a Rhyhorn and a Rhydon that have these kind of discarding card synergy, and it would have been really cool to add this card in had we explored the format a little bit more. But it's sad to see this card go. I guess decks out there are safe as of right now from our opponent just discarding all of our cards. Good to know. Heatmore. So in another kind of weird way, speaking about discarding cards, this card would get cards back from our discard pile. As of right now, we've lost Rescue Stretcher. We've lost a lot of ways to get cards back from our discard pile. Energy Retrieval, it's gone. Rescue Stretcher, like I said, Odor Sleuth might actually see some play. Now, we do have a Rangaroo from Ultra Prism that seems pretty solid, but we don't put them into our hand. We put them at the bottom of our deck. With Zoroark GX being gone, it might be difficult for us to access those cards. So, lest we forget Heatmore, goodbye, buddy. It's been a solid ride. Reshiram. So we actually saw some Reshiram Charizard GX play this deck because Scorching Breath deals a decent bit of damage. Outrage deals a decent bit of damage. So this is a solid fire type single prize card attacker. Build it up with Welder. Maybe with some of the cards we saw rotating, we would be playing Reshiram right now. But like every other card on this list, it's gone. Victini. So if you thought post-rotation you'd be busting out Blissey and flipping coins like Russell Lepar, you might be looking for this card in your standard collection. But it's sad to see this card go because you don't get a chance to reflip your coins for Victory Star. As much as coin flip decks can be annoying, I'm sure if you were playing one, you'd want to include Victini in your deck. If you are not playing a coin flip deck, I'm sure you won't care that this card is gone. Salazzle. So it's got that hot poison hiss, but this is one of the ways that we could add damage in our format. And while Choice Band and Shrine of Punishment really kind of overtook Hot Poison's capabilities, it's one of those things that's sad to see go because in this new format, we don't have Choice Bands. So maybe we would be playing Salazzle. And there's also other Salandits and other Salazzles that we'd play. So it could make an interesting kind of whole deck. But this card, it's in the back of the bin, no longer viable for play in the standard format. So it's just another casualty of the rotation. Charizard GX. So this is not some collector's list. I actually think this card is semi-playable. I know Tanner Hurley and I were talking before the Latin American International Championships earlier this year. We were talking about using Charizard GX in the Zoroark GX deck to make a Zoro control type deck. So discarding the top 10 cards of your opponent's deck. Similar to Rhyperior, this card, it would have been really cool if we were trying to deck out our opponent, make them run out of cards. But now Raging Out GX, it's no longer an option because this card is gone. It would have been really cool to see us play a Charizard GX card, but like I said, all good things have to come to an end. Shaman. So this card was cool. I played this one again at Oaks and at Memphis. I played it in my Buzz Garb Shrine deck. Rally Back was a really good way to attack Pokemon for 120 damage, especially if they were weak to water types. Flippity Flap, solid consistency crutch. This card saw some decent play, but it's just another minor casualty in our new rotation. Shining Celebi. So this may be a card that you're like, oh, it's a promo card. It might be legal still. Unfortunately, it's not. It's just before the threshold of cards that are still legal. With Time Recall, it would have been cool to attack with some of your pre-evolution Pokemon, but the format did move to more tag team based attackers, and that's kind of where we are with that. Shining Celebi, no longer legal, no need to look for it, it is no longer an option. Shining Genesect, another Shining card. So you can move some grass energies around, you can kind of attack with Gaia Blaster. This deck saw some play with Venusaur from, I also believe, the Shining Legends set, if I'm correct. But you want to know what? That archetype is no longer legal, so it's just kind of something that we could look back on. If you're trying to build a new grass deck, Shining Genesect is no longer an option. Taboo Bulu Gx, Bulu Gang. This card saw a lot of players see success. I know that Tapu Bulu with Vica Bolt kind of got a bad rep for being an easy deck to play. Some people called it much worse names, but I think any deck that you decide to play in Pokemon, as long as you're enjoying yourself and you're having a good time, it's always a great choice. This deck could knock out most GX Pokemon with Nature's Judgment relatively easily. Tapu Wilderness was a great way to heal, and Horn Attack was an efficient attack for just a single grass energy. We used Vica Bolt to power up this Pokemon as early as the second turn of the game. So this one's more for the nostalgia. It didn't see too much play later on in the season as Pokemon went upwards of 300 HP, but it is one of those things where it's like, this card was very good for a long time. Let's look back at it. Golisopod GX. I remember playing this card early last season. There was Golisopod Zoroark. Dean Nizam won a regionals with this card in Dallas this year. So Golisopod GX was a very real card. First impression, efficient attack, but this card also lost Guzma. So I'm sure it will be happy to know that it will have its partner of Guzma back again in expanded formats, but this card is no longer an option for our current standard formats. Lurantis. Kind of a weird card on this list because it did not see a lot of play. It's one of the early promos from Sun and Moon. Maybe you did not pick them up. At this point, no longer need to pick them up unless you're thinking about playing it in expanded. Lurantis is kind of cool though. One of the ways to power up Pokemon, especially, it would have been nice in the absence of Choice Band in our new post-rotation format, but we have to deal with what we have, and Lurantis is not part of it. The Cid Ui Gx, I'm sure you've seen it. You might have seen the memes with John Kettler in the finals of internationals, where he prized all of his Rowlets. Igor Costa played this deck. Lots of great players played this deck. I played this deck. I have fond memories of this card. It's earned me a lot of championship points. Feather Arrow, similar to Lurantis, putting 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon is the same way of getting damage counters out there, like a Choice Band or something like that. Razor Leaf, pretty cool attack. Hollow Hunt, get some cards back. This card was an integral part of our format for a while, and it was always an option. I always kept a playset of these on at all times, just in case I came up with a new deck that kind of worked with it. Unfortunately, the Cid Ui Gx, being part of Sun and Moon, one of the first set in the Sun and Moon block, it has to go. Maybe we'll see a reprint or a similar card like this in the future, but as for now, this card is gone. Venusaur. So I talked about this card earlier with the Shining Genesect. It was a way for us to accelerate energies, or at least double our energies that we had in play. Venusaur, cool card, but it's gone. Vileplume. Goodbye, Vileplume. This card caused so much headaches. So as long as this was your active as long as this was an active Pokemon, your opponent's basic Pokemon couldn't attack. Reshizard, no chance, bud. Pikarom, get out of here. Blacephalon, you can't even use Burst GX. What's going on? Vileplume, super, super, super annoying to deal with. And it's kind of one of those cards where it's just like, when I was playing Stall, I love to have him in the active position. When I'm not playing Stall and I'm playing basic Pokemon, I'm so disappointed to see this card. So I'm kind of happy to see this card leave out of the formats because it will allow decks to kind of take new shape and form. We don't need to play cards to counter this card, but at the same time, it did cause us to think. It did allow us to build our decks differently, and Vileplume definitely shaped the format this season. Raikou. So we even saw a lot of the Dead Draw Gaming guys play this in their Pikarom list. I'm pretty sure the guy who came second at Internationals this season, Emery Taylor, played this card too. Raikou is a great way to deal with Zapdos. It was a great way to power up some of your Pokemon on the bench. Booming Thunder was a great attack. Electric Ball was also a pretty cool attack too. So definitely one of those things where it would have been really cool to play, but it's from Shining Legends, and we just don't have that anymore. Tapu Cocoa. Spread, spread, spread to your heart's content. Well, no more. This card, as you can see, it has the little A symbol, or however I can do A. It's no longer legal. SM30A. They wanted to make sure that Tapu Cocoa was no longer in the format. Flying Flip, I guess they saw enough of it, enough spread, and that card is gone. Tapu Cocoa GX. This card actually hurts a lot. I built Pikarom in the new format. You can see here, I built Pikarom in the new formats. No Tapu Cocoa GX included. Even though that this one's the promo card, it did not meet the cutoff for the rotation. Arrow Trail was a great way to pick up your energies, move them all to the Tapu Cocoa GX, and punish your opponent for having too many energies in play. Sky High Claws, an efficient attack if you didn't want to use your GX attack. It is just one of these cards that we're going to have to sorely miss from our format. Raichu. Well, this card saw a lot more play in the expanded formats because of its Evo Shock ability, and it's been seen in those Shock Lock decks. There were quite a few players who tried to dabble in making that deck viable in Standard, so I'm happy to know that we won't see any of these wacky control decks featuring this card in our new format. Vica Bolt. Actually, I absolutely love the art of this card. Super cool. Kind of looks like some kind of like action hero movie, superhero movie. Anyways, getting more on point, Strong Charge was a super strong ability, even for a stage 2 Pokemon. Attaching 2 energies from your deck to your Pokemon any way you like was a great way to power up Tapu Bulu, great way to power up Rayquaza GX. This card got a lot of players championship points, but we do not have it as an energy accelerator in our new format anymore. Goodbye, Vica Bolt. Kartana GX. So it was a great way to discard special energies, was a great way to take a prize card with Blade GX. This card, no longer part of our format, even though it was an Ultra Beast and printed late into the format. You can see that it was just one set away from being legal, but that is one set to not be legal. Unfortunately, Kartana GX, RIP. Registeel. So while it was not played a lot, Registeel's Turbo Arm was definitely a great ability, or great attacks, I should say, to power up some of your Pokemon, especially if you're playing a Metal deck. If you're playing a Metal deck now, you no longer have this as an option. Metagross GX. So it did not see a lot of play this season, but it did see a lot of play last season. Nowadays, our format is dominated by Fire-type Pokemon that could easily hit 250 HP regardless of weakness or not, but Geotech system was a great way to power up Metal or Psychic energies. Jeez. Giga Hammer was an okay attack. Algorithm was a great way to set up. This card will be for sure missed by those who've seen success with it. Chimeco. So we saw players such as Rukon Shao play this at the Memphis Regionals. Daniel Altavilla actually won the Regionals with this card. Bell of Silence, 10 damage, and your opponent can't play any Pokemon that have an ability from their hand during that turn. So it kind of stopped a lot of decks. So one of those weird control cards, but it's definitely a card we're going to miss if we wanted to have a control-based aspect to our decks. Delmise. Again, not a card that saw a lot of play, but it was a way for us to do extra damage with our metal Pokemon to our opponent's Pokemon. So if you're trying to build a metal deck, Dhelmise is not one of those cards that you want to include anymore because it's no longer able to be included. Latios. I actually played this at the 2017 European International Championships. Breakthrough, really cool attack, 30 and 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Could be really cool, especially if you're trying to do some spread damage. With double colorless also being rotated, this is a fair kind of inclusion on this list. However, it was a pretty popular card, and if you're thinking about adding this into any more decks, you can't at this moment. Marsh Shadow. Get out of here, let loose. I feel so bad for saying that. I've probably won over $10,000 playing Pokemon this year just because of Let Loose. I give my opponent nothing, I draw into a great hand, but you want to know what? I've probably lost another $10,000 just from Let Loose ruining my day. So you want to know what? You live by the Let Loose, you die by the Let Loose. This card is gone. You don't need to worry about it in our new format. Hooray! Literally. Necrozma GX. So again, one of those cards that saw some play in Malamar decks. It's not really played that much because there's not a lot of colorless Pokemon to deal with Light's End, Prismatic Burst. There's been other attackers such as Ultra Necrozma GX that take over this Pokemon. Darkrai Gx. Really, 100 damage doesn't really chop it up too much anymore, but this card was really cool when we saw play, and if you were thinking about adding into your deck, no longer are you able to. Oricorio. So we saw some players play this card earlier. Isaiah Williams played it at a League Cup with Vital Dance in his Pikarom list to grab some energies out. If you're kind of like Rabombi, if you're looking to search for energies, don't look at Oricorio. It is no longer an option. And speaking about Oricorio, here's another one. I have personally used this card in multiple of my lists, especially if our opponent deals with Pokemon in their discard pile, or if they're playing a Psychic Weak Pokemon. Revelation Dance can do a lot of damage. It's kind of just one of those cards that we've been playing with forever. You can see it's one of the first 19 promo cards from Sun and Moon. It was also regularly printed in, I believe, Guardians Rising. So it's been in there for a while and it's seen its success. Now it's time to retire this card. Seviper. I played this card earlier at some League Cups in my Taboo Cocoa deck with Poison Barb. This was a great way for me to build up damage on my opponent's board by doing extra damage to their poisoned Pokemon. So if you're trying to go and poison your opponent's Pokemon and do some extra damage in this format, don't be looking for Seviper. It's not going to be there. Shining Mew. Kind of a really weird card. Seems super powerful with Legendary Guidance, searching your deck for a couple energies, powering them up to your Pokemon in any way you like, but it has the huge drawback of 30 HP. It does make up for that with Free Retreat, but this card is no longer viable for play. It's really sad because you got to think of it, if you're playing a Greninja Zorich GX deck post-rotation, this might be a card you're looking for. Or maybe even just like a Psychic type Pokemon, maybe Latios GX Tag Team. We don't have this as an option anymore. So Mew, you're going to be going to the expanded format. Tapu Lele, the card that was supposed to be printed for Worlds 2017, that got printed way after that, but still kept its status as promo SM45. Magical Swap was a great way to kind of bully a single Pokemon on your opponent's field by moving all the damage counters to it. This deck saw some play in Weezing, especially at the Origin Special event that we just recently had, but it's no longer an option. So spread is kind of dying. As you can see, there's quite a few spread cards, damage modification cards that are gone. Tapu Lele GX. I don't know if you've looked into the new format. It's so difficult to search out your supporters. It's not even funny. Wonder Tag was an amazing ability that allowed you to just grab a supporter card from your deck. It was kind of moments away. Now, the only card that we really have that kind of just like gets us stuff or gives us that consistency boost is Dedenne GX, but it comes with a drawback of discarding your whole hands. This card has been one of the most important cards in the format and made decks a lot more consistent. We just don't have that same level of consistency anymore. So you have to say goodbye to our dear pal Tapu Lele. Take it easy, pal. Wobbuffet. Kind of a weird card here, and I know I've said that a few times, but Shadowy Knot, I know a few players talked about it with Absol to do extra damage. This card saw some play in Malamar lists, but it just could not keep up with the format. I don't know if it would have seen play in this new format, because Malamar is still viable, but maybe it would have been really good. I guess we'll see exactly how it goes in the future without this card. Lowland Muck. I am upset to see this card go because it was part of one of the cards in my Collinsville Regional Championships winning deck. But at the same time, I feel like all basic Pokemon with abilities should be able to use their abilities. That's only fair. Muck took away that capability of using your abilities, and it's kind of a good day to see Muck leave. Now we have the option to be using other cards. And especially before this format, we had Garbodor that would be blocking abilities in general. So it seemed like we went from no abilities to only basic Pokemon without abilities. Now we have full-on abilities. So it's going to be exciting to see what the format brings in the future. Speaking about Garbodor, this is a different one. What up, bro? Trashlange. So doing all that damage for having all of the cards in your discard pile, all the item cards specifically. Trashlange has won multiple regional championships. It's done well throughout its lifetime. Now it's just time to see this card go. Really unfortunate to see it go, but I will be happy knowing that I can play as many item cards as I like going forward. Mismagius. So this card really didn't see a lot of play, but with the new printing of Duskstone, maybe decks would start using Chaos Wheel to block Pokemon tools, special energies, and stadium cards. There's not a lot of those cards to block in our new format, so maybe this card wouldn't see that much play, but it is notable that this is one of the most control-based cards that there was available in our Sun and Moon to Crimson Invasion format. Lowland Vulpix. This card was played in a Lowland Ninetales decks. It was played in decks on its own just to use Beacon. Beacon was a great one to search for a couple Pokemon, especially for 0 energies. Now, if you're still thinking about playing a Lowland Ninetales GX, the Fairy type one, you can, that one, but you need to use an Alolan Vulpix from either Lost Thunder or from Ultra Prism. So you gotta choose which one you want. But if you don't own any of those cards, I highly recommend picking them up. Where were we? Oh yeah, Alolan Ninetales GX. Let's talk about this one. This card was definitely seen play in previous formats. Ice Blade GX, super annoying spread attack. Ice Path GX, even a more annoying attack because it can move all the damage counters from this Pokemon to your opponent's Pokemon. I'm kind of happy to see this card go because I like just getting my knockouts. I like the damage to stay there, and I'm happy that I don't need to worry about Ice Path GX anymore. Lowland Ninetales. So we actually have a carbon copy of this card that was printed in Team Up. Same exact card, except it's Fairy type. So it's not the absolute biggest loss in our format, but Luminous Barrier for water type decks, or I guess for playing against a fire type deck, this would be one that you would miss. However, we do have the Fairy type counterpart. Lapras GX. So we just saw some players such as Rahul Reddy and Trainer Chip play this card at League Cups. Even as of a couple weeks, maybe a month ago, Blizzard Burn is one of those cards Blizzard Burn is one of those attacks. 160 is pretty solid, especially when you power this card up with Aqua Patch. Really cool concept of a card. Lapras, collect, pretty cool. Ice Beam, making your opponents paralyzed. It saw a lot more success earlier on in the season. However, Lapras GX is one of those cards where it's just like, it's always been pretty good. And if you were trying to build a big water type deck going in this new format, you don't have Lapras GX as an option anymore. So Tapu Fini GX. So we got, basically we played it for Tapu Storm GX. So you could shuffle your opponent's active Pokemon and all cards attached it into their deck. So kind of a control aspect card. I know some people played it for Hydro Shot, but Tapu Storm GX is really where this card was played for. There's not really a lot of options in our new format to do that, especially if you power up a Pokemon. But maybe there will be something printed in the future like this to kind of stop some big powerful Pokemon from being printed. But don't look for Tapu Fini GX. Wishiwashi GX. Kind of kind of a weird card because it didn't see a lot of play in our format. But Water Gun did pair nicely with the little Wishiwashi, I believe from Dragon Majesty, that powered up this Pokemon to doing upwards of 100 damage with Water Gun. 210 HP, healing all the time, but this is no longer an archetype. Wasn't really that popular of an archetype, but if Wishiwashi GX was one of those cards that you always wanted to build a deck with, now you got to try to build an expanded. Lowland Sandslash. So once during your turn, you may draw a card. With Zorich GX being gone, you might have thought that this card's still in our format, but it's no longer there. We have cards like Salazzle that you discard a fire and draw 3, or Heat Factory, which is the same thing. Maybe you want to play Zubstrika nowadays, but a Lowland Sandslash is no longer an option. Gyarados. This card was played in a Zoroark Gyarados deck to win a regionals, or at least make finals. Not too sure on that. Don't fact check me. It did well. Venting Anger was a great way to do a lot of damage, especially if you had Magikarps in your discard pile. For a single prize card Pokemon, hitting for upwards of 200 damage, 230 with a choice band, you could do a lot of damage. Nowadays, this card, it did not see a lot of play towards the end of our metagame, but it was a generally pretty cool card. And now we're on to the trainer cards. So Aqua Patch is one of those cards where it's allowed us to accelerate energies to water type Pokemon. I think that this card would have been really good, especially with Quagsire and Naganadel both being legal in our new format, but it's no longer an option, so you got to search for your energy acceleration elsewhere. Countercatcher was a great card if you wanted to bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon if you were behind. Especially, this card would have been great with Guzma being gone from our format, which we will get up to in a little bit, but it does suck that its card is missing. Damage Mover. So this card saw some play in Spiritomb decks later on in the format, because you can move 3 damage counters for your Pokemon to power it up. It's kind of a weird way to heal, or I guess half heal, because the damage never really leaves, but this card was an interesting card nonetheless. Energy Lotto. Just grabbing energies nowadays can be very difficult, but like I said, Energy Spinner is an option that we can use, so let's use that instead of Energy Lotto. Energy Retrieval. So not even searching for energies, getting energies back can be very difficult. Putting 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile back into your hand could be great. I played this as recently as the North American International Championships in my Baby Blacephalon deck. It sucks that I can't play this card anymore, but we do have other cards like Fire, Crystal, and Brock's Grit. Enhanced Hammer. So we no longer have the ability to just freely take away our opponent's special energies. I'm not going to miss it because I like my special energies attached to my Pokemon. Escape Rope. Another kind of switching card like Guzma. And I'm going to bring up Guzma a lot because that card's very important. Guess we just got to play Switch. That's kind of where we're at. I wouldn't be surprised if they reprinted this card. Escape Rope, and even before that, Warp Point, which is a word-for-word exact same card as this, has been in play for decades. So I would fully assume that this card will get reprinted in some way, shape, or form in the future. Field Blower. So have you ever been playing against a Malamar deck post-rotation, and then you're like, oh, they play Spell Tech, how do we get around it? Well, your options are like Faba or Lysander Labs to shut it off. Field Blower is kind of one of those really losses that hurts us in this format because we can't take away pesky cards in play or things that really stop our deck. Maybe even you run into a Shedinja deck and you're like, how do I get rid of these cards? Yeah, Field Blower being gone really will hurt. Great Ball. So Jimmy Pendarvis and his buddies played this at the Oaks Regional Championships in their Zoroark decks to kind of make the deck a little bit more consistent. In our new format, we've lost Ultra Ball, Ness Ball, Great Ball, lots of ways to search out Pokemon. So if you're thinking that you can use this one to build your deck, think again, this card is gone. Max Potion, same thing. There's a lot of cards that you'll just miss because you've been playing with them for a while. Maybe you've been playing the game for like the past 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. You no longer have a great way to heal because both Max Potion and Acerola are gone from our formats. Multi-Switch. So moving energies around was really cool. This card had the ability to move special energies. Now we just have Energy Switch. So you got to default to that one. Ness Ball. Just a super basic card. Searching your deck for a basic Pokemon seems so strong right now. Even in past formats where this did not see play, we would kill for Ness Ball right now. So now we just have cards like Mysterious Treasure, Ultra Space. We don't even have Brooklet Hill. Like, Ness Ball is definitely one that's going to hurt us. Peaking Red card. So kind of one of those weird control cards. Your opponent casts a card in their hand, shuffle those cards into their deck, and draw that many cards. So let's say if your opponent only had a single card left in their hands, and it was a real good one, maybe they just knocked out one of your opponent's Pokemon, and they're holding on to a supporter card, like a Lily, you could shuffle that card away. Now, we don't need to worry about this card because it is going to the expanded format. Pokemon Catcher. So similar to Counter Catcher and Guzma, you got to look for all angles in this new format to bring up our opponent's Pokemon. Like I said, the only one in our new format so far is Custom Catcher that seems like it's going to see widespread play. Rescue Stretcher. Yeah, this card really sucks to lose. But you want to know what? We do have Brock's Grit in our new format. It is a supporter, but we do have something to get cards back. At least they have a kind of reprint in a way where it's just like Baba is not that great in comparison to Field Blower. At least Brock's Grit is a better version of Rescue Stretcher. Yeah, Timer Ball. So similar to Great Ball, we lost Ness Ball, we lost Ultra Ball. You might be thinking, is this card still legal? Nope. Gotta think again. Tormenting Spray. Yeah, kind of a weird card. Just choosing a random card from your opponent's hand, grabbing a supporter, and discard it. You don't need to worry about this card anymore, especially, or if you're building a control deck, this card's no longer an option. Ultra Ball. I can go on about balls all day long. Ultra Ball is gone. It sucks. Believe me. Try building a deck in this new format. It's difficult. You gotta look for Pokemon Fan Club, Mysterious Treasure, Pokemon Communication. We do have options. They're just not as strong as Ultra Ball. This was a great way, Aether Paradise Conservation Area that is, to basically buffer your Pokemon, your basic Grass and Lightning Pokemon, from taking extra damage. Aether was a great card. Didn't see that much play, but it saw some play. Gustavo Wada played it in his Pika-Rom list at a few tournaments, so he thought it was pretty good. This is no longer an option for us. Alter the Moon, especially with cards like Guzma being gone, you might be like, oh, how do my Pokemon get from the active to the bench? This is not one of those options. You got to stick with the switch. Altar of the Sun, very similar card, but the fire and metal Pokemon have no weakness. If you wanted other Pokemon to have no weakness, or let's say if your fire and metal Pokemon are facing against a bunch of fire type and water type Pokemon, this would be a great card to include, but it's no longer legal. Brooklet Hill, similar to our missing balls, Ultra Ball and Ness Ball, this would have been a great way to kind of build a water fighting deck. This card looks like it's getting reprinted in the next couple sets, but we're not sure if it's going to be a legal reprint. It might have the alternative art from Guardians Rising on it. Devoured Field. With Choice Band leaving us, Devoured Field was a great way to do 10 extra damage for Dark and Dragon type Pokemon. We no longer have that option anymore, so it kind of sucks to see that one of these stadiums that saw success in Zoroark throughout the past couple of years was really good, and now it's gone, but we just have to find other ways to do extra damage or not do it at all. Mount Lanakela. So similar to the Vileplume Regigigas Hoopa deck, this card saw a lot of play in those decks. The retreat cost for each basic Pokemon in play is colorless more. Now my Pokemon can freely retreat, even though that we're playing without Guzma or Altar of the Moon. Mount Lanakela is definitely a card that I'm happy to see go. Potown. So I've looked at all ways to do extra damage, even things that can hurt you. Potown is no longer an option. We do have Shrine of Punishment, however, and that card is probably better than this card anyways. Acerola. Like Max Potion, like I said earlier, we don't have a lot of ways to heal in this format. We even lost Miltank for Reshiram Charizard decks. Acerola, it's going to suck to go, but at least you know when you put damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, they are going to stick there. Gladion. If you ever want to just grab a card out of your prize cards and just grab something, you had something super important prize, you can get it back with Gladion. Now you don't have that option at all. Our prize cards are basically our prize cards. Maybe you want to play Baby Blacephalon and start flipping over your prize cards. That's what we got right now. Guzma, probably one of the most important cards next to Zorich GX, Tapu Lele GX. Guzma is just, not only do you get to bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon, you get to switch your Pokemon as well. It really sucks to lose this card, and I'm sure you'll feel it when your opponent just has a big Pokemon on their bench that you want to bring up. Now we just can't bring it up unless we play Custom Catcher. Hala. So if you're looking for a way to draw some cards in our new format, don't look any further than Cynthia or Lily, because Hala is no longer an option. Mallow. Zoroark, you like to put 2 cards on top of your deck, draw them with trade. We don't have this option with Mallow. It might have been pretty cool with cards like Salazzle or Heat Factory, but Mallow is no longer an option. Plumeria, well, it should be noted that Crushing Hammer is still legal because its full art got reprinted in a set where it's still legal. Plumeria was a great way just to discard an energy from one of our opponent's Pokemon. At the drawback of discarding 2 cards, I thought it was a fairly balanced card, but it's no longer an option. Speaking about doing extra damage, gosh, I sound like a broken record. But all these cards basically did the same thing. With Choice Band leaving, Kukui also leaves. So we can't do that extra 20 damage. We can't combo it with the Choice Band to do 20 plus 30. We really have like Diancie Prism Star and Shrine of Punishment to do extra damage right now. Sophocles, I actually played this card to a top 8 at the Latin American International Championships in my Blacephalon deck. Just a way to discard cards, so if you're trying to find ways in the absence of Ultra Ball to discard cards, don't be looking for Sophocles. This card's not going to work. Sightseer is kind of like a better version of this card in a way, so maybe you want to play that instead. Team Skullgrunt, no longer do we need to worry about our opponent just peeking into our hand and discarding our energy cards. As a control card, if you're building a control deck, this card would have been a must-have. Now, it's not even an option. Bodybuilding Dumbbells, if you want to buff up your Pokemon's HP, we saw this in a few decks from time to time. You gotta look elsewhere to kind of give yourself some extra buffer. Maybe add in Choice Helmet into your deck would be a good substitution. Poison Barb, so kind of working with the Seviper we had earlier, and in the same kind of vein, we had Choice Band, Professor Kukui. As much as Poison doesn't seem like it's adding 10 damage, it's still 10 damage. So if you're looking to get that extra little damage boost, you gotta look elsewhere. Weakness Policy. It's like Altar of the Sun. Sometimes we don't want to see bad type Pokemon. So if I'm playing a water type deck, I don't want to see a lightning or a grass type deck. And if I did, I'd want to have Weakness Policy in my deck maybe. But this is just not an option for us anymore. Now this card has been reprinted multiple times in the past, so it's possible we'll see this card or at least a card like it in the future. But as of right now, there's not really that many choices. I think there's a Cherim from Ultra Prism that does a similar effect if you're trying to build a deck in the new format. Wishful Baton. No! I played this card in my Baby Blacephalon deck at North American International Championships. Wishful Baton, if your active Pokemon got knocked out by damage from an attack, you can move 3 energy cards, basic energy cards that is, from that Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon, so it allowed me to chain cards. Decks like Quagsire, Naganadel, Baby Blacephalon, they're all going to be upset. Greninja Zorich GX, which seems like a pretty cool deck in this new upcoming format, probably would play this card as well. We no longer have that as an option, so we got to look for moving our energies or getting our energies back from our discard pile another way. And last but not least, or maybe not even last, Counter Energy. No, second last but not least, Counter Energy. If you ever wanted to play that weird tech card like Shaman on your bench and just power it up in one go, Counter Energy was a great way to power up that Pokemon. We've seen this card throughout the entire format. You can attach it to a Weezing, for example, if you're a little bit behind, or spread decks. Or you want to know what? Counter Energy was just super viable. It was super versatile. Very cool card. It's gone. We don't have that many ways to accelerate our energy anymore. It sucks to see it leave because it was a very balanced card and it came out in Crimson Invasion, so it's right at that cutoff point where it's no longer legal, but it is in the expanded format now, so if you want to relive good old times, you could play Counter Energy there. Double Colorless Energy. Honestly, from playing from this card all the way back in base set days, and then again since in the SP era, all the way up until now, so like the past 10 years I've been playing with this card in the format, it's so weird not having it. Decks like Zoroark are not instantly an energy away from attaching. So it's really weird not having this card. So many decks would love it right now, but we do have the new triple acceleration energy, which is pretty cool. We also have super boost energy Prism Star as ways to attach extra energies. And I'm sure there's got to be some way to accelerate energies a different way, but this is definitely one of those cards that will hurt us for losing. So these are all the cards that we've lost basically in our rotation that I think are important, all 116 of them. And just make sure that when you're building a deck, don't think about any of these cards. If you think I missed any cards, be sure to put it in the comments, but I tried to comb through all the cards I could the best I could. If I didn't mention a card, there's cards like Mimikyu that got reprinted as a promo, the one with Copycat, Crushing Hammer, Lusamine, what else do we got over there? Energy Recycler, all of those cards got reprinted some way or another. Those cards are now currently legal. Same thing with like Sylveon GX. So I didn't miss those cards. I did look through all the ways that cards could become legal again. So we'll only see how the future goes. In the absence of Unified Mind set list, this is a great way to comb through your collection and be like, these cards are no longer viable. Give them the proper funeral to the expanded binder of your choice. But until we still have a couple weeks left with these cards, maybe a month until the actual rotation happens, but just prepare for the rotation because the rotation's real. Anyways, if you did enjoy this content, be sure to like, share, subscribe, tell your friend, tell your neighbor about this vid, about this channel. We are trying our best to produce some of the best content available for the Pokemon TCG or Pokemon in general. So really hope you liked it. I did spend a lot of time going through all these cards. So hopefully you're still here with me and you made it this far in the video. If you do, thumbs up to you. If you want to consider supporting our channel, we do have a Patreon. So you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/rarecandytcg, supporting us there. You could also go to the Rare Candy TCG. We have a merch site as well. So maybe you could pick up some stuff to support the channel. Will really help us improve the quality of our videos. So that being said, I'm Zach Lesage. You can catch me on Twitter as ZLesage Pokemon. Follow me on there, see what I'm up to. But until then, I'm just testing decks, pre-Unified Minds, so Ultra Prism to Unbroken Bonds without these cards. So it's been an absolute blast. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it for today.